Welcome to Below the Line with Dr. Bennie L. Harris. The Chancellor of the University of South Carolina Upstate talks with top leaders about issues such as change, technology, education, and leadership. Please enjoy.
Please join me in welcoming Rahm Emanuel.
I'm going to say one thing. Introductions like that, you know your mother would be proud and your father would be amazed.
Thank you very much. I'd like to start with your roots. You were born and raised in Chicago and later returned to serve as its mayor. In what ways did growing up in that city shape your worldview and your approach to leadership?
Well, let me try to, that's like 5 different threads that run through.
Take them all.
Okay,
Yes.
take them all. Okay. Well, my kindergarten years, no. One, regardless of the city, I grew up in a home that was very, very, my mother and father, very active politically, socially. My dad comes as an immigrant to America, sets up a pediatric practice, and he wins a landmark case 3 years after, and he's barely speaks the English language. I think he has only 3 words of the English language that he has. I'm making an exaggeration, but he sues his city for lead in household paint.
Okay.
And wins. Second, and he led other doctors in this class action suit against the city of Chicago, which if your business model is to establish a medical practice, don't sue the city you were calling home. It wasn't a good. And my mother was very involved in the civil rights movement. Now, they were also talking to her. She ran CORE in Chicago. Congress.
As your mother was a nurse as well, right?
Nurse as well. My mom and dad meet in a hospital.
Okay.
They married. 1 week of dating, they get married.
Okay.
As my dad passed away recently, I said at his funeral, they were married for 64 years and argued for all 67 of them. But she was a nurse, but she was very involved in the civil rights movement. Now, my grandfather on my mother's side comes to America, 1914, from Eastern Europe, fleeing the pogroms, and is a 14-year-old by himself, and he settles in Chicago on Maxwell Street. It's a classic immigrant story. And he, age of 15, now you wouldn't look at me, but he was a very big man. He starts illegally driving a taxi at 15.
No, well.
And he's working on Maxwell Street, which is a famous area, and he's selling scrap garments and all kind of stuff, and that's how he makes it. And 2 generations later, his grandson is both the mayor of the city of Chicago.
That's amazing.
That welcome. Now, in Chicago, the mayor is boss, which is why the book is called Boss. It is not only all aspects of the city, police, fire, schools, community colleges, public transportation, public housing, public parks, public life, all report to the mayor.
Okay.
You're also the president of the city council. So, I mean, it is a position like none other. Without mentioning the mayor of another major city, I used to tell him, you're just a groom on a wedding cake. But I also grew up in a home very deep in our faith, Jewish faith, which is, there's a word called tzedakah, which is about justice. If you save one life, you saved humanity. Okay. And my faith is very important to me. It was important to the family. And that notion that you're here to make somebody else's life better. And so that kind of, both the politics, the inspiration to go into public service comes out of that. But Chicago also, and I'll give you one funny anecdote. When President Obama was trying to convince me to become chief of staff, I didn't want to do it. Congress, our friendship, I'd worked for President Clinton as senior advisor. And he goes, well, I wanted to be speaker. And I was on track already within 2 terms. And he says, well, what else do you want? I said, well, one day, obviously I'm running for mayor. And he goes, well, don't you think working with me would help you? And kind of light bulb went off. And then when it gets announced that Mayor Daley's not going to seek re-election, President Obama's joke was, do you think Rahm will stop by to say goodbye? I'm on my way to the airport. So, it's kind of that kind of, but there's other pieces that led to it. But Chicago, but I'm going to say this, and I know we're here. New York thinks of itself as part of Europe.
Okay.
Los Angeles looks to itself and it just admires itself. Chicago is the most American of American cities. It is the only global city in the heartland of America, not on the coast. By way of reference, so you have to get a sense of this, there are 147 languages spoken in the Chicago public school system. Outside of Warsaw, it is the largest Polish community in the world. Outside of Stockholm, it is the largest Swedish population in the world. That's also true if you go through every part of Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia, etc. Outside of the capitals, Chicago is the largest population. It is the fifth largest city in Mexico based on Mexican-American population. So it's just, it is the entire mosaic of the world.
It's there in Chicago.
And, it's a global city, global reach with, and a kind of matrix of all parts that come together. You got to build a community out of all of that. So it's fascinating.
So I was intrigued, and I'm sure the audience would be intrigued as well to learn that you were a dancer. So can you tell me about that? And
I thought we were going to ease people.
I kind of have to get you back. I have to get you back for putting me on blast by my time. But what it taught you about discipline, resilience, and performance under pressure?
So let me back up just one sec.
Okay.
So I'm a soccer player, freshman year, and I said to my mom, I want to off season. I want to improve my soccer game.
Okay.
Because I'm tired of sitting on the bench. And those were the days, you may remember this, you and I are around the age Benny has, Rosie Greer was taken, and Minnesota Vikings taking ballet off season, and he's 6'4".
Yeah.
I'm 5'8". I'm only 148 dripping weight. I'm like his left thigh.
Uh-huh.
And so my mom says, you should take ballet, improve your soccer game and your balance and your footwork, etc. Now, I apologize, so don't get upset at me. I walk into that room, and there's 35 women and me. And the light bulb goes off also, and I can go back and sit on the bench with 12 guys or 35 women and me. And so I went for ballet. Now, I find out in the process that I'm actually very good at it.
Okay.
And I get a scholarship to the Joffrey Ballet School.
Impressive.
Well, my mother's still alive. Don't call her. She still thinks I failed in life because I did not take that. Now, in 1974, you can count on this hand how many men are taking ballet in the city of Chicago, let alone. So dance taught me a tremendous amount about discipline.
Okay.
It actually saved my life, but that's another, it literally saved my life.
Okay.
Because when I had an accident, I almost died, and the doctor said if you weren't in the condition you were in, you'd be dead.
Yeah.
2, besides discipline, how to think in space, all dance when you look at it, etc., and how to think and see things in connections that don't exist. And it also, taught me a tremendous about putting yourself out at risk.
Yes.
And today, I serve on the board of the Joffrey Ballet Company. I go all the time to dances. I'm biased. I happen to think it's one of the great art forms of all because it's the only place, as you know in the Bible, there's a moment in time in which God says, I have piped music unto thee, and thee have not danced.
Mm.
So you look at all history, there's crawl, walk, run. But every culture, dance is the way you pay honor to the community and to God. And so I think it's unbelievable. But
I never thought about it that way.
Well, you can get college credit if you stay with me a little.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way. Now.
Oh, no. Oh, okay.
Now my daughter's getting married, so I'm
my
sure my
voice
wife's going to have me wanting to learn to dance. So I'll figure something out with that.
right.
So I understand that your father was a strong presence in your life. You talked about him earlier, and someone who had set high expectations. He once described you as fiercely intelligent. What lessons did he teach you about work ethic, about leadership, and standing up for your conviction? I think I know some of that just by talking about him already.
I think it's funny you say that because my dad always used to say about me. I thought you were going to say something else, but I'll just say it. He used to say the thing with Rahm is he figured out how to get the maximum by doing the minimum.
Okay.
And that was his comment about me. And in rare moments of self-awareness, I think he was observing the correct. Look, my dad had well, this is true for all of us. He was a role model and a benchmark for me.
Okay.
My dad had 3 boys. He came to America with $13 when he was an immigrant, and he built his medical practice as a pediatrician to the largest in Chicago. But he worked nonstop, nonstop to do that. Now, he also found value in that. Every one of the boys got a Saturday that went on rounds with my dad to all the hospitals that he did, the pediatric, Edgewater, Children's, Columbus, in Chicago, etc., Michael Reese. And that was the kind of work ethic. But he also, and this is both my dad and my mom. In our family room, we had the little purse that had my grandmother's passport and her sisters, my 2 great aunts. We had the passport framed. Right above it were the passports and the purse. And on either side of that wall, or that frame, were family photos, black and white, of my dad's family and my mother's family that never made it to America. And you're laying down in the family room, or you're watching something, you're playing something. You have 28 eyeballs staring at you. And it was my parents' way of knowing and telling us that you won the lottery of life being an American. You are not allowed or permitted to waste your time in this country because you have a generation of your family that never made it here. And so my parents not only taught me a work ethic, they taught me a sense of responsibility, part of why I went into public service. Yeah. But my father's work ethic, and my mother's, but my father's was an example. And you can somewhat see it. I can see it in my 3 kids, that same sense. But you set an example. He set an example. I used to joke in the White House, thank God it's Friday, 2 more work days till Monday. And I also used to say to President Obama, I said, the White House is family friendly to your family. Okay. But it was an example. But the biggest thing my kind of parents, and we had other things that we talked about in the sense of, but this notion that in America, you won the lottery being an American. Your relatives who couldn't make it to this country are their lives, their hopes are on your shoulders. Don't you turn your back on them. Yeah. And so that was kind of the ethos.
Very much like Scripture, to whom much is given, much is required.
Exactly.
So early in your career, you worked with Illinois Public Action. What drew you?
Oh man, you have done your research.
Yes.
Or one of these students.
I got some wonderful data. You worked in Washington. You know who does the work. But anyway, what drew you to consumer advocacy, and how did that experience shape your understanding of public service?
You know, it's funny. The other day, it's bizarre that you say this, because the Illinois Public Action, I get out of college, I knew somebody, and I got a job. And what was it that Illinois Public Action Council worked on? Utility rates and fighting the utility companies on rates. Feels like we haven't gone very far since 1982. Yeah. But we're right back where we've always been, right back. But then it was about fighting the Public Utility Commission in Springfield in what the utility companies would pay versus what the ratepayers would pay. And that was the organizing principle. But it was about public service, and it was about how I wanted to get started in public service. And we went around organizing citizens to fight the utility companies at the Public Utility Commission on rates.
Okay. That came directly from your father, then, that fight.
Yeah, well, actually, if I don't give my mother a shout out, she's going to be pissed. So I'm going to say it. But my mother's, her work in the civil rights movement and fighting.
Right.
Against,
oh, yes.
I will say to my parents, I don't understand how they did this, which is they imbued us with a view to always respect authority, but never to accept it, meaning challenge it, but also respect it as an authority. So it's contradictory. They don't fit together as concepts, but somehow they gave us that sense that you don't, and there are things that have, part of my life that has been the principle. But you respect authority, but you always question it and challenge it.
So from the Illinois Public Action, Your path led you to national politics and eventually to working on Bill Clinton's 1992 presidential campaign. What did that moment teach you about political strategy and about the realities of governing?
Well, the campaign on the President Clinton, so you got to go back. I get to know him when I'm a staff person for this guy called Burl Anthony, a congressman from Arkansas.
Okay.
That's one. And we go back to Arkansas, so I get exposure. He comes up to Chicago. Remember, Vince Lane brings the Chicago police into public housing when Cabrini Green and Robert Taylor are all messed up, trying to bring some order to chaos. And then he decides to run for president. Now, Carter, Mondale, Dukakis all lose.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill Clinton, in my view, was exactly what the Democrats was kind of right in the zeitgeist, in that kind of nerve of what we needed to present at that area. Not to my father, when I said I'm going down, Bill Clinton's at 3% on a good day, more likely 2%. And my father thought I made the biggest mistake of my life. He was trying to stop me from doing it, et cetera. And I said, look, I want to do a presidential campaign. I want to work for somebody I believe in, somebody that I think can make a difference. And I'm single, I'm young, I want to get this done. And I went to Little Rock. The rest is history.
Okay.
But Bill Clinton, to me, was at the right. And I will, because this is most formative, he had an ability to do three-dimensional politics.
Mm-hmm.
He could understand policy, politics, and public expression. And he could blend those into a whole like nobody I've ever seen in politics. And President Obama can do it as well, and this is not to take away from Obama, but these are my formative years. Clinton had, which is why they called him the natural. He had a talent and a capacity. And I'll give you another funny anecdote. We're in the cabinet meeting. He's having a head to state with China.
Mm-hmm.
I'm senior advisor, Chinese leaders there with all his advisors. President has his cabinet. And they're not arguing, but they're discussing this very complicated thing the president's trying to persuade the Chinese premier to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the president looks at the Chinese premier. Remember, everything's getting translated.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, well, this is how you got to handle it. Your politics between your coastal cities and your rural area. This is whether you should say it and talk about it. And this is how it would make it more of a win for China. And for if you know the Chinese, they read talking points, you read talking points, they read your response to your talking points. Nothing is kind of audible. There's no audible. The Chinese premier starts to smile, and Clinton stops, and he goes, and the translation back to the president is, look, when you're done with this presidency, I could use a senior advisor, and you mind coming back to China? No. He says, you know more about my politics than by half the people sitting at this side of the table. But the president had a knack. And I say politics is a complementary. You can't get things done if you're not sensitive to politics.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So you were the senior advisor in the White House during that time. And so looking back, what are some of the accomplishments from that period that you're most proud of? And what leadership lessons did you carry forward from that particular experience?
Well, I'll give you one that's I'm very proud of. One with the two other people, we negotiated the children's health insurance program.
Okay.
Set it back. Obviously, the national health care plan goes down in 1994. 1997, we're negotiating the big balanced budget agreement that produces the first balanced budget and the first surplus in 30 years, and we haven't had it since.
Yeah.
The last item is the children's health insurance program. Now, it's dear to me because my father's a pediatrician, and it's personally important to me. And it's 10 million kids whose parents work full-time, so they make more than Medicaid, but there's no private insurance. So these 10 million kids are caught in this gap between Medicaid and private insurance to no fault of their own. So President Clinton had Medicaid funded, pediatric care, eye, and dental. The Republicans had pediatric care, no eye and dental, but outside of Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
So the final thing we're negotiating, and it's part of a team, so I don't want to say it's my idea, but there's three of us, is we will do the president's plan, pediatric care, eye, and dental, but we'll do the Republican funding mechanism outside of Medicaid. They did not want to expand an entitlement program. And it proved to me, don't ever confuse ends with means or means with ends.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, and I can say this as the son of a pediatrician that used to do rounds with my dad, nobody cares whether it was Medicaid or not.
Yeah.
A parent cared whether they had eye and dental care. And sometimes Washington confuses how you're going to get it done with getting it done.
Right.
And that lesson of not confusing the ends with the means, I don't say I'm 100% adhere to it, but it has been a guiding principle of remembering what was it we were trying to get done.
Yeah.
We were trying to get 10 million kids their health care and also add free and dental. Let me fast forward now. We raised tobacco rather than Medicaid. That's tobacco taxes. I know that's a risk here in South Carolina to say. That's what we did. I'm mayor. 20 years later, I raised taxes on tobacco to the highest in the nation, and I give free eye and dental care to every child in the city of Chicago. Not every child, the poverty, 90,000 kids in our public school system. And the lesson out of that kid health care taught me how to leverage, and not that I didn't know, but to really, that's a lesson out of that experience. I'm very proud. I mean, I did also welfare. I was a point on welfare reform, a point on 100,000 police officers. But if you ask me, okay, what is it Rahm Emanuel, he lived from 1959, kids health care.
Yeah. So early in your career, you developed a reputation as a tough strategist. Some people describe you as someone who takes no prisoners. How did that reputation develop, and how has your leadership style evolved over time?
Well, I do like to win.
Okay.
As you know, sometimes on election night, certain people give speeches, this was a moral victory. I don't like those speeches. Mm-hmm. I'm not into losing. I'm into winning.
Okay.
Now, whether it's tobacco companies, pharmaceutical companies, we were the first entity anywhere in the country that sued pharma over opiates was the city of Chicago. Mm-hmm. Whether it was taking on National Rifle Association, I passed the Brady Bill and the assault weapon ban. Financial interests, or took over the House and made Nancy Pelosi, and not me, but because we got a majority, Nancy Pelosi became Speaker. No special interest or Republican ever got in the ring with me, didn't walk out with a broken nose. Now, that's a joke, but it's also, I was going to get that kid's health care bill.
Yeah.
We won the assault weapon ban in the House by one vote. Mm-hmm. So I've never lost an election.
Okay.
Either one I ran in or the one I run, like the DCCC in 2006 when we took the House. But the winning is in service of a purpose.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, I'm chair of taking over the House against the Republicans. But I'm a member of Congress, and I worked with President Bush, and we passed the Great Lakes Restoration Act. It was my bill, and it was this and I'm sitting there trying to beat the heck out of Republicans, and I'm working with the President of the United States, who's of the other party, and he and I worked together, and we created the Great Lakes Restoration Act. President Biden, years later, puts $1 billion in it to preserve and strengthen the ecological system and the water of Lake Michigan, Superior, Ontario, and Huron.
Yeah.
And so winning is important because it's in service of getting stuff done.
Right.
And it's also in the what you get done. But I took my fair share of hostages. I'm not, I wouldn't bend for that. But I think everybody knows I do it in a respectful way. Mm-hmm. I'm going to win. And then, to be honest, that aura serves you.
Yeah.
Before every negotiation with a union, carpenters, any building trade, SEIU, police, fire, I'd ask the president of the union to come in 3 weeks beforehand. I said, bring the 5 things you want to get done. I'm going to have my 5. Mm-hmm. I'd get them. I said, explain to me your 5. And I would explain to him or her mine. I said, I want you to come back a week later and you tell me what you can live with, what you cannot take, and is there a compromise you want to offer me on number 2 and 3? I'm going to do the same to your list.
Okay.
And the reason is I wanted to set up a context for win-win.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get all 5. Breaking news, you're not getting all 5 either.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you walk out of there, you got to run for re-election. I got to run for re-election. You walk out of there with 2 wins. I walk out of there with 2.5 because I'm the mayor. I get to get a little more than you. But we all have something. You know what? 78 agreements never went to arbitration. Yeah. And so listening to, my wife doesn't think I do a good job of that, but listening, saying, okay, I'm going to give you a chance to tell me what's really an A for you, not a hope, not a wish, not a desire. What do you got to have? And I say this with all serious. What do you got to have so you can get reelected as your own leader of your union? I respect that.
Okay. So in 2002, you returned to public life.
Yes.
This time as a candidate, winning the seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. But later you chaired the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee.
Yeah.
What was the biggest strategic challenges you faced in that role? And how do you motivate teams when the stakes are so high?
So the biggest challenge of 2006, Nancy calls me, Pelosi, 2004, and says to me, this is right on the heels of George Bush wins re-election. Mm-hmm. We lost also 2002, and we lost in 2000, 500 votes. Some people don't think that, but 3 in a row. Mm-hmm. The Democratic Party, and they're thinking that they know what they're doing on politics, is about as low as you can get. 3 national elections, and the Democrats are 0 for 3. Mm. Now, I also know in politics, you got to be smart enough to know when to buy low. That's low. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay. 1, biggest challenge, Democrats had internalized that they were losers. Getting Democrats to realize that they're not losers and believe in themselves that they can win was like the hardest thing. 2, the party had a series of Washington, D.C. litmus tests. I broke the mold. I went out and recruited candidates with military backgrounds, CIA backgrounds, football players. Mm-hmm. Up in Asheville, he's Schuler.
Okay.
A sheriff, Brad Ellsworth in Evansville, Indiana. And I recruited candidates that fit the district but didn't fit Washington, D.C.'s standard. And I told one member came up to me once, about 5 months out, these aren't real Democrats. I said, well, they're going to vote for Nancy Pelosi to be speaker. They're going to vote for an increase in minimum wage, and they're going to vote for direct negotiations for prescription drugs. The gavel only comes in one size, you know. Mm-hmm. And Democrats not only didn't believe, they wanted X type of candidate that fit their mold. And my view was, you got to go where the fish is. And you have to flip a district from red to blue, and you had to find a candidate that fit the cultural mix of that district. Yeah. And the Democrats had not done that in years. I mean, if you look at it, going back to Bill Clinton now, and even Barack Obama, in Bill Clinton's case, they were picking Mario Cuomo and Bill Bradley. They were not picking the governor from Arkansas at 2%. When President Obama runs, they were picking, and she's a friend, Hillary Clinton, not the junior senator that arrived 18 months ago from Illinois. Mm-hmm. So they challenged the precepts of that city, and that was the model of what I try to do. And it not only succeeded, but you go to 2018 and you even go to now, Democrats are once again rolling out that playbook. Yeah. This time they're adding to it. I talked yesterday on the phone to a woman in Minnesota who's a flight attendant for Delta Airlines. There's a construction worker and an IBW worker before. So they're adding to the national security people with working class. Well, look, the Texas State Senate District, the guy's an electrician. Mm-hmm. And he won a district in suburban Fort Worth, Dallas area, by 24%, flipping a district that President Trump won overwhelmingly. Yeah. And so it's a different profile. I always say this. The messenger is part of the message.
Yeah. You know, I think about, we're at a higher education institution, and we have 2 of our students sitting here, and Sarah.
Political science right here in the front row.
So I think I'm listening to all the strategy and how this being a classroom that we really can learn and shape what America is. And it has its influence on the globe. So when you serve as the White House Chief of Staff for Barack Obama during a period of major national challenges,
Your ability to spot the obvious is a gift, Mr. President. It was more than a series of challenges.
so what does effective leadership look like inside the White House when decisions must be made quickly and under enormous pressure?
Well, one, let's get to leadership. What is that? I'm going to say to you what I've said to my kids are tired of. They could all repeat it. Leadership is, and I've worked for 2 presidents. I think as a mayor I did this. But I've been honored to work for 2 presidents directly who I think exemplified this in every shape.
Yeah.
Leadership is knowing why you're doing what you're doing
Mm-hmm.
and the ruthlessness and toughness to get it done. And now go back, stand back, look at history. Abe Lincoln, Reagan, Roosevelt, Jefferson. I mean, you just go through Truman.
Yeah.
Just finishing a book about him. Know why they're doing what they're doing, and they're tough enough and ruthless enough to get it done. Or hire a real badass chief of staff to do it for them so they don't get their hands dirty. But that was, and when I was chief of staff, I coined, one day, Amy and I went to a party, it was transition. I said, you have the auto industry failing, the financial sector's failing, 2 of the longest wars in history. America has to get out of it. We have an economy that's not in a recession, but some people think a small D depression going in. And I've said, never allow a good crisis to go to waste. It's the opportunity to do big things that you never thought possible. And we had you just 360, turned around. Anywhere you went, there was a crisis.
Yeah.
And so we had to make it an opportunity to do the things that you never thought possible. I think the president did a couple things that I always took away. Both of them, but specifically I'm for President Obama. I mean, remember, he is a state senator, U.S. senator for 18 months, starts running for president.
Mm-hmm.
He was not scared of talent in areas higher than his capacity. When you look at people that in the financial area or other areas, he had a person that was a Nobel Prize winner in chemistry. Mm-hmm. Or one of the aspects of science, Dr. Shu. He was not scared of, and I say this just to me. I had 3 elections in Congress. I took over the House. I had been in the White House before. Mm-hmm. An insecure person would not have that person as a chief of staff.
Yeah.
So his talent, he was not scared of. 2, a sense of mission and purpose. 3, get it done. So he and I, it was my gift. We used to walk every morning. We would start sitting in his office, just him and me. He's a list taker, so he has a year goal. I have it framed as my gift when I walk out. The 2010 year, it was administrative, legislative, executive, ancillary, foreign policy, etc. And at the end of the day, we would do our walk around the South Lawn. And it's this also, and the list is next to this photo. And he's wrapped up, rolled in paper, the list that is in that frame. I'm holding mine. And we would go over, we got this done, And I, to this day, I have a business card for the week. I do it on Sunday, week goals. Every end of the year, I do, what is my goals for the year?
Yeah.
And every term as mayor, I said, what is the goal for this term? And I had it in my drawer. And the president had that. Set a mission, make sure that everybody understands their goals for that area, and then keep everybody's feet to the fire to get it done.
Yeah.
Okay? You don't have time for grass to grow under your feet.
Yeah. So you and I talked to some about this, and I'm going to try to bring this conversation to a close a little bit. But
I thought we were going to get to my kindergarten years.
We're going to talk about that too. But in your term as mayor and some of your hallmark activity within education, so why do you believe that education reform is so critical to the future of American cities in America?
Because you and I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't education.
Okay.
And not just because we're in a place of higher education, this great institution. Look, let me step back intellectually. I love history.
Mm-hmm.
Read it nonstop. Reading a great book called Boss Lincoln. Lincoln is a political boss.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating. You could say 5 great periods of American history. Civil War, turn of the century, World War II, Sputnik, nation at risk.
Okay.
What is the one through line through all of them? Land-grant colleges, universal high school education, GI Bill, science and tech, Sputnik challenge, and the nation at risk, Reagan authors, that becomes the guiding principle for every Democratic, Republican president afterwards. What to do. This country's greatest periods of economic growth did one thing every time. Invest in the American people. And one of the things, if I decided to jump into the deep end of the pool without my water wings, that I'm going to do is and I'm seeing it here in this, Spartanburg and in the Greenville area. I saw it in New Hampshire. I saw it in Wisconsin. I saw it in Iowa. I went down to Mississippi to see their reading program. Every challenge we're facing today, the answer is right here at home in America. Against great challenges, you here in Spartanburg have combined your community colleges with your high schools, with your workplaces. You're doing things that are relevant to people so they can work as a nurse, plus up on a skill level, become a radiologist nurse, make more money, probably for your family, and you have an integrated education system. La Crosse, Wisconsin is doing the same thing. And Washington, and I don't understand this, Washington has got complacent with failure. I mean, think about it, folks. We all grew up with Vince Lombardi's failure is not an option.
Mm-hmm.
And I will just tell you this, as an ambassador to Japan, I learned a tremendous amount about Japan. Learned a tremendous amount of China. The country I learned the most about was the United States, being 8,000 miles away. And I'm looking at America, rubbing my eyes because I can't. Washington has come complacent about failure. Think about this. I mean, right now as you're doing this interview, they all leave town and go on break.
2 weeks.
And TSA is broken and you can't get out of town. They got out of town. You're stuck.
Now, we said we were going to talk about politics.
I said they. I didn't say party. I got close a couple times, but I didn't do it. But look at this. 50% of our kids cannot read at grade level. Yeah. We are at a 30-year low. Halt. Put a pin in it. China is 3 times our size. Yeah. We've never faced this before. And they're trying to dunk us and put the head in the toilet and flush it. Yeah. You are competing with one hand tied behind your back without naming any individual. Nobody at national level has called an emergency meeting and say, okay, how do we fix this? And I am 5'8" and 148 dripping wet. I studied this stuff, and I go, Mississippi's doing something unbelievable.
Yeah.
They went from 49th to 9th in reading. Alabama, Louisiana, and Tennessee replicated and all seeing hockey sticks. They answer. You don't need AI. You don't need Dr. Google. It's right there. It's in Mississippi. We just got to have the political will to scale it.
Yeah.
In the same way, I think that what you guys have done here, somewhat like what we've done in Chicago, somewhat what's being done in La Crosse, somewhat what's being done in Franklin, New Hampshire. You want to merge high school and community college, dual credit, dual enrollment, so our kids' high school years are already college and career preparatory. So mom and dad don't have to pay for it a second time. Kids get the wind in the back. They understand they can do this, and they're already focused on what's next. High school hasn't been changed in 100 years. And again, the solution?
Right here.
Spartanburg.
Yeah.
Solution? La Crosse, Wisconsin. Imagine what we would accomplish as a country if Washington put its muscle and its shoulder to this. Yeah. You're doing it out of necessity and smarts.
Yeah. I think you met with Dr. Russell Booker this morning.
Yes.
With the Spartanburg Academic Movement. And what we've been able to do successfully well is pour together a higher education at all levels, K through 12, and create a solution for this county.
Let's be clear. It used to be, as recently as 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, siloed.
Yeah, very much so.
And now, out of necessity. But Washington has, I don't know, somebody needs to take them by the shoulder and shake it up. And one last thing that and it goes to your first question, which is, as a mayor, but also my whole life, we got to 98% compliance with a thing called Learn, Plan, Succeed. You could not get your high school diploma without a letter showing us a letter of acceptance from a college, a community college, a branch of the armed forces, or a vocational school.
98% compliance.
98% compliance. And now we hired a lot of college career. We hired people to support kids in making choices. What were the academic plans, etc. Dr. Janice Jackson was the lead on this, my chancellor. And don't ever, ever throw the towel in on a child. Yeah. Do not tell me, like these Harvard bums, not that child, not that background, not that family, not that neighborhood. Bull. Yeah. And I want to say that I went 45 minutes before I got there. But I'm serious about this. And don't give in on a child. Give them the support they need, the standards, high expectations, test them, measure it, improve it. We can do this.
Yeah. So this podcast is entitled Leading Below the Line. It's about below the line, talking to leaders and leadership about how to lead when you don't know all what's happening. When you hear the phrase leading below the line, what comes to mind for you?
Well, it's actually, I'm glad you said that. Got back to it because you asked me a question. I kind of it's scattered around it. There's a concept that somehow in the White House we have a lot of information. You do, but it's just a fog. And you got to be able to have smart people around, not be scared, ask tough questions. And what I mean by that, I told you I love history. You have the Bay of Pigs, a failure. Mm-hmm. And then you have the Cuban Missile Crisis, an incredible success. We avoid nuclear war. Kennedy does it. Imagine if they were switched. President Kennedy failing in the Bay of Pigs. Basically taking Eisenhower's plan, alterations, fails miserably. He learned something about John F. Kennedy. He learned something about the people around him. He had the ability to make some changes and judgments. X months later, over a year, comes the Cuban Missile Crisis, and thank God we had the failure beforehand. Yeah. And that he had the character to know how to learn. And as I say about being mayor, I say this more about president. The only thing that gets into the Oval Office is bad and worse. Good and bad, your chief of staff can decide. Mm-hmm. What goes into that office is just bad and worse, and you have to have the character, the judgment, the inquisitiveness to know what to ask, how to ask, to think, and then to decide, looking around the corner in a fog of war. That's also domestic. I'm not using war literally, but also figuratively, because you don't have all the information. You have semblance of information, and you have to be able to navigate and understand what are the trade-offs and make that decision. And I'll close on this one example. I was advocating doing financial reform before healthcare. And I pushed the president because I thought it was the right thing to do and politically. He chooses healthcare first. Thank God we had universal healthcare. But we also got the Tea Party. Yeah. And you have to make a decision that trade-off, so to say, because of the choices of which went first, et cetera, is worth making the trade-off. And that's why he gets 307 electoral votes, and the chief of staff gets to be mayor one day.
Okay. So I have one final question, and this is a softball question. You may be able to talk about your kindergarten years in this question. But
okay, I'll see if I can win.
If you can win it in. Do you have a hero? And someone who's been your biggest influence in your leadership journey and what they have taught you? Do you have a hero?
So there are 3 rules by the Emanuel children.
Okay.
Don't let dad talk about grandpa, dad, or us, because I get choked up. My dad's my hero. I wish he was here. I ain't nothing without him. If I talk more, I'll start. So that's my hero.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He's an amazing man.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Rahm Emanuel, thank you so much for being on To the Line.
The Below the Line podcast is brought to you by the University of South Carolina Upstate. Look for our monthly write-up in Greenville Business Magazine, and for more information, go to uscupstate.edu.